Thank you everyone for coming along tonight. I know that it's quite soon after work, but it was really, really awesome to see so many people interested in finding out about one of the really unique offerings we have here at St. Peter's, which is a choice of what sort of qualification students can leave this school with. I am Tony Foley. I am the IB coordinator here at St. Peter's. I have worked prior to St. Peter's, an IB-only school for around about 10 years up in Auckland before moving with my family down to the Waikato around about 5 years ago. This is my 5th year here, and I've been running the IB program here for the last 3 years. As I was saying, one of the things that sets us apart, one of the many things, is the fact that students at Year 12 can choose whether they continue in the NCEA pathway and gain the next level of qualification in NCEA, at NCEA Level 2, and then again another level of qualification at Level 3, or they can move and they can choose to do the IB qualification. The IB DP, the International Baccalaureate Diploma Program, is for students who are at Year 12 and 13. It is a 2-year course, so it is one qualification that students receive at the end of that second year. Students who do this is why it says Year 12 and Year 13, that's one course. Students who do IB and NCEA both have the option of doing scholarship exams as an extra. So IB students can also do New Zealand scholarship exams, and around about 40% of our IB students choose to do one or more scholarship exams, and they usually choose to do these at Year 12, unlike most of our NCEA students who usually do those at the end of Year 13. Our IB students who do NZ scholarship are typically very successful, and part of the reason for that is scholarship exams are a step beyond the curriculum, from the New Zealand curriculum, and they require critical evaluation of knowledge and expansion of ideas to complete those exams. Okay, and this is something that is at the centre of what the teaching and learning looks like in IB courses. So it isn't something that students find exceptionally difficult, and they see quite a bit of success in those exams for that reason. The International Baccalaureate was founded in 1968. That was the first year that the IB existed as a curriculum. It is an international curriculum that's in over 160 countries now around the world. Over 200,000 students do IB exams each year. And it is founded on a principle that looks at developing inquiring, knowledgeable, caring young people who will be able to create a better and more peaceful world. That was the founding principle. And if you think about what life was like in the 60s and what the context of what had happened in the previous 10 to 20 years, you can see why there was that feeling that there was a need to do something different, to create a curriculum that created young people that were going to be able to think bigger than themselves, look beyond national borders to an international level, and look at how we could work together to have an international community that worked together for peace. So in a nutshell, as I said before, it's a 2-year course. It includes a build-up of learning over those 2 years, where the final stages of assessment are at the end of those 2 years. Students study 6 subjects, and we'll look at what that balance of 6 subjects looks like shortly. But on top of that, they also do the core elements. And those core elements include theory of knowledge, that's TOK. That's a critical thinking course that looks not at knowledge itself, but where does knowledge come from, and how can we know what is accurate? How does interpretation affect knowledge? What role does truth or objectivity have in how we look at what's presented to us as fact? Those sorts of things. They also have a comprehensive extracurricular program that they design themselves. Okay, this is known as CAS, which stands for Creativity, Activity and Service. Okay, this is where the IB celebrates and gets students to really think about all of those things that they choose to do outside of the classroom and how those things help us to grow as people. It's measured not in hours or how many things students choose to do, but rather on students' ability to reflect on what they're doing and think about how is that changing me. It's about recognising where my strengths are, where my weaknesses are, how is it that I respond to ethical situations or situations I'm put in that are uncomfortable, And it's not about recognising I do great things and here's all my reflections about those awesome things that I've done, but rather, I think I stuffed up when I did this. Next time, this is what I would do differently. So really helping students to think through their actions and their thoughts and look at how can we move forward from the growth mindset. Finally, students do one extended essay over the 2 years, and this is something that they are assigned a mentor for. They pick a subject of their choosing, and they're helped to go through an academic process of developing a research question, creating a methodology and following a methodology to answer that question, and then evaluating what they've done. Essentially, it's a mini thesis. So again, this is something that sets IB apart from NCEA in that the students are given the skills and given the opportunity to develop those skills that they would need at university and doing university level studies. The IB is academically rigorous, yes, but it is designed for the average student. Most IB schools in the world, a large proportion, more than 80%, have in all of the students in that school doing IB. Our school and other schools in New Zealand, most of them offer it as one of the dual pathway, either NCEA or IB. But most schools in the world, all of the students in the school would do the IB. It is designed for the average student. Its focus is on personal growth, not necessarily on being the best, but moving forward and being the best you can be. There is achievement levels that are celebrated across all levels of that spectrum. It is internationally minded. It is not siloed into focusing only on national issues, but there is room to focus on national issues, but then apply them to global contexts. Okay, so it's about doing that reflective practice, looking at where I am in the world and then considering that in the context of myself as an international citizen. The philosophy is embedded through all of the teaching and all of the learning and all of the assessment. It is about looking at not just content knowledge, but also how do we learn? How do we shape young people to become people who can think deeply? They can communicate clearly using a variety of mediums. They can research, and they know what research looks like in different contexts and in different areas of the curriculum. They've got the social skills to be able to move forward when they face challenges, to overcome those times when they are finding life not that easy, and also what to do when other people around them are finding stuff not easy, but also those times when they are finding life pretty good. They are required as part of the curriculum to develop self-management skills. That is the key to success in IB, in growing all of these parts of what it means to be a learner. So when it comes to those 6 subjects, all students study English literature and a second language. Now that second language is a non-negotiable, and that comes back to that founding principle of trying to create students that are able to think beyond borders and to look internationally. And the belief is that by getting students to view the world through someone else's culture and someone else's language, that's how they achieve that. So it's not about being an expert in another language, it's about being forced outside of your comfort zone, being forced to view the world through a different perspective, through the eyes of another culture, through the eyes of another language. Some students are already native speakers in another language, and those students don't have to learn a third language. They could choose instead to do a literature course in their mother tongue language. We have a student here this year who is doing Dutch literature. Okay, Julie Brouwer, she's at the front. Hey, Julie. If anyone is interested in that, learning what that looks like, then Julie's someone you could talk to at the end. We also have a student in Year 12 who is doing, Swedish literature, and another student who is doing Mandarin literature. Students also have to take a mathematics course. There are 2 different mathematics courses to choose from, but unlike NCEA where they are more pure mathematics courses like calculus and statistics, both mathematics courses look at all areas of mathematics, but they weight those different areas differently. So much broader and deeper look within those subjects. The other 3 subjects students can choose from humanities, so things like economics, business studies, geography, psychology, What else is there? Quite a few others, we'll look at that shortly. Science, so physics, biology, chemistry or environmental systems and societies, or computer science. They could choose an arts subject, so music, visual arts, drama, dance, or they could choose, if they really wanted to, a third language. These subjects are listed on a form that looks like this, the expression of interest form. On the back of that, there's some handouts in the foyer if you would like to take one of those away afterwards. Ideally, students are encouraged to choose one subject from each of the different groups of subjects. So English, another language, a humanity, a science, a math, and art. However, some students potentially they don't like any of the art subjects and they prefer to do two sciences. So that's something that is possible. Some students want to do two art subjects, in which case they could choose either a science or a humanity, and instead they could take another subject called ESS that would fit over both of those areas. These are 4 different students' timetables that exist either this year or last year, and you can see there is a diverse range of possibilities. You can see student C. I don't think Julie actually does ESS, I've just added that one in, but student C is doing English Literature A, Swedish Literature A, so they're not learning another language, instead they're looking at texts, novels and poems in Swedish alongside their English course, Environmental Systems and Societies, Theatre, Math and Film Studies. Because that student C, is doing Theatre and Film Studies, which both are arts subjects, ESS covers both the humanities stream and the science stream, because that's a subject that is a little bit geography and a little bit bio. It's a mixed subject. Conversely, if you have a look at student D, that student is a student who didn't want to do any art subjects, and instead they have chemistry and biology in that 6th stream as a second science, and that is also completely within the realm of what students can choose. Looking at that core, that extended essay, TOK, and the creativity, activity and service extracurricular subjects, if we look at TOK, as I said before, that's a subject that looks at that critical thinking and it focuses on these 12 concepts. So students consider what they're learning in their other subjects and they ask themselves, to what extent is justification or interpretation going to impact what I've just learnt in chemistry today? Does interpretation play any role, or is it got enough evidence for me to have a completely objective point of view and it doesn't matter what lens I'm viewing that knowledge through, I know that it's true? Conversely, potentially we're looking at a current event and we're looking at someone's explanation and we're looking at trying to figure out who's right in this situation, who's wrong. Can we even know? Is there such a thing as right and wrong? How do we justify our point of view when we make a statement or we make a claim in relation to that question? There are only 2 assessments in that course, one at the end of Year 12, which is a visual exhibition. Students choose a prompt from a list of 35 options, and they pick 3 objects that they think can help them to answer that prompt. In the second year, students work on an essay. The IB releases 6 possible essay questions, and the students choose one and they write that essay in class with support from their teacher and through discussion and applying all of what they're learning from the previous year. TOK is not marked in the same way that other subjects are marked. In fact, if the IB had it their way, it wouldn't be marked at all, because it isn't about a grade, it's about getting students to question the world, to learn how to critically evaluate. But the theory is, if you don't apply any marks, the students won't care and won't put any work into it. So the way that it's graded is that it is given bonus points. All students have to pass TOK, and in the history of all of the grades that we've had here, in the last 5 years, we've not seen anyone not pass TOK. That's as far back as I've looked, to be honest. But to get a very good grade, that would require a significant investment and would require students to have higher level thinking skills. if they show significant achievement in this course, they can get what is called bonus points. I'll talk about that more when we look at the entire grading system shortly. The creativity, activity and service program, that's something the students design themselves, and it's about their extracurricular. Now this is not graded or marked in terms of a criteria, in terms of a gradient. It's either they've done it or they haven't. Students can choose how many things they want to do. It's not marked, or it's not, the criteria doesn't include how many things students sign up to. A complete creativity, activity and service program could include a student being involved in rowing, for example, being involved in being a prefect, because that's service to the school, and depending on what sort of prefect, that could also cover their creativity as well. So it's not about doing lots and lots of things. It's not about checking off a lot of things. In fact, I would actively discourage that, because that would show that students aren't appreciating balance in their life. It's about doing the things that you love and looking at making sure that you are investing in different areas, not many, but in different areas to achieve balance. The way that we decide whether a student has done CAS or not is by looking at their reflections. Have they been able to reflect? Have they been able to show and identify where they were before and recognise that they've moved forward in some way or another? And finally, that extended essay that I spoke to before. Students begin this process at the end of term 3 of year 12, and they wrap up this process around about now. Students are doing the final things to finish off their extended essay in year 13. So it's over a long period of time, and it's heavily supported. Most IB students say to me when they come in on day 1 that they're a bit nervous about the extended essay. 4,000 words, I can't imagine writing that many. And it's interesting how many students say to me after they do their first internal assessment, that is usually about that size anyway, that they realise that actually it's not as big as it seems. The extended essay is marked with a grade between A to E. You have to get a D to pass. That's the requirement to get your diploma. And the higher the grade, the more bonus points you can get when combined with theory of knowledge. All of your other subjects are marked using a criterion scale. There is usually one internal assessment per subject, which is worth roughly 20% of your grade. And then the other 80% of your grade is from those exams at the end of the second year. A lot of students say to me that they're worried about the stakes being too high. But the reality is, by having that exam at the end of the second year, students have gone over material many times. Also, unlike NCEA, where a lot of the knowledge is siloed into separate assessments, then you put it aside and it doesn't necessarily connect to the next topic. In IB, all of the topics are connected. So every time you learn a new topic, you're referring back to the topic you were just doing, and they connect together. This tends to make the learning much deeper. It means that you are actively revising through the whole course. And when you get to those final exams, very rarely are the students in the same fear position where they are worried about it being too overwhelming. You also have 2 practices at doing that have 0 stakes at all. In term 3 in year 12, students do exams purely for the opportunity to practice going through the process. The purpose of those exams, I like to tell the students, is stressful revision. It's to practice doing what does it feel like to sit in an exam, how would I do if I was to sit IB right now, and that can be a bit of a weight off for a number of students because they realise actually it's not as bad as they thought it would be, and if I'm doing this well so far, imagine where I can get. They do that again at the end of term 3 in year 13, before the real thing that starts on the 26th of October in year 13. The subject grade is a percentage that is then converted to a points. Each subject is worth 7 points. Whether they are higher level or standard level subjects is irrelevant. It's worth 7 points, with 7 being the highest and 1 being the lowest. 6 subjects, 7 points, that would earn you 42 points, and then you've got your 3 possible bonus points to get a total highest possible score of 45 points. To put it in perspective, about 0.1% of people in the world get 41 points on a normal year. About 10% of students who sit IB exams will get 40 points or higher, and that will mark those students as being top scholars in the world. Students are awarded a special award if they get 40 or more points in New Zealand to be a top scholar. And at our school last year, we had 14% of students who achieved that honour. A strong score would be 30 or more points. Okay, the reason I say that's a strong score is because to get that, you would need a minimum of a 5 in each of your subjects and no bonus points. Also, this is the calibre to get into some of the more competitive courses. 33 points is automatic entry into our most competitive courses here in New Zealand, engineering or health sciences, which is pre-med. So a score of 33 is a really good score. Our average score here in St. Peter's last year was 34 points. Our average over the last 5 years is 33 points. So students do fairly well. And these, remember, are average students. Granted, at St. Peter's, often we do get some of the more above average, but average students also achieve these scores. The top score that we've had at St. Peter's to date is 44 points. We've had this a number of times, so that elusive 45 is still on offer prospective IB students. Everyone wants to be that first one. It could be you. There's no reason why it couldn't. At this point, I'd like to invite Samuel up. Sam is one of our alumni who graduated from IB last year. That means that he did the entire IB diploma in the midst of a pandemic. He did very well. He is someone that I taught TOK to. I enjoyed teaching him TOK because he always came with a really fresh perspective and always came with something that was unexpected in the class. Samuel was a keen hockey player. And I found this photo in our archive. I can see he's super stoked I put that one on, of his team. And he was also a chess enthusiast. I say this because every now and then when we had a little bit of wellbeing break time, he would challenge me to a chess match. And he was always kind enough to not point out my very obvious moves and my defeat. He'd let that drag on a little bit before he annihilated me. So thank you, Sam. I'd invite you up.
Just before I start, I'd like to say that I've accepted this opportunity to talk to you all on the condition that I get to say whatever I like. So, being someone who wouldn't pass up such a glorious opportunity, I have only one thing to say. I'm not sure if Miss Bibby is here, but you should all go and study geography. It's quite that simple. That being said, kia ora, my name is Sam. Last year was my final year of the IB diploma. Here at St. Peter's, much of my family legacy has been tied to IB and the successes it has brought. My older sister Connie, who is now 29, took IB in the first year it was offered. And later, my other sister Madeline also took the diploma. The feedback from them was very similar. It went along the lines of, IB has perfectly set me up for university and life beyond. I've taken a slightly different approach. This year I operate a shovel for CB Civil and have been awarded a full scholarship to study civil engineering in June. This opening has, I like to say, been solely provided to me by my involvement and full commitment to the IB diploma, its learnings and everything it has taught me. When I started, I was tentative, to say the least, about doing IB. I worried that I would struggle in Spanish. I worried about the uncertainty of what I was about to undertake and how I would manage with that. I'm certain that all of you here are having similar fears. However, after a month in class, I realized that my previous fears had been, well, poppycock. Everything was fine. IB has a reputation of being extremely difficult and demanding. I found that through effective concentration and time management, this is simply not the case. IB is a regular qualification for regular people. If you want proof, here I am. I obtained merit endorsed in level 1 NCA and 31 out of 45 for IB, which for reference is below the Southern Hemisphere mean. I'm sure you've noticed I may have been offered some opportunities disproportionate with my academic results. The reason for this is that the IB diploma is applauded for more than its academic rigour. has also instilled in me the desire to succeed, the means to do so, and the confidence required to pursue further education or even impress and progress at a regular job. This is essentially what IB has taught me, how to learn, a highly valued skill. From this, I highly recommend everyone here takes IB, for the simple reason that the diploma will expand your horizon, teach you lessons, and most importantly, develop and encourage your own learning, which I can guarantee will be critical for your own personal successes in the future, whichever they may be. As for Spanish, I passed. You can too. Thank you.
Let it be known that he is 100% right, that I did say you can say whatever you want as long as it's honest and it's a reflection of what your journey gave you. I also didn't vet what he said. Maybe I should have. No, I'm just joking. Thank you very much, Sam, for sharing your perspectives. And this is what I love about the IB. The IB is so much more than that academic rigour, and yet that is what most people talk about. It's something that scares people away, it's something that attracts other people to it, but it is so much more than that, and arguably it's all of the other things that make it so valuable and something I'm so passionate about. It's why I chose St. Peter's to come to. When I left Auckland, I said, well, there's only one place we can go unless we're going all the way to Wellington, because there's only one IB school between here and there. It's something that I passionately believe in, and I'd encourage you to consider. Lots of students ask me, is the IB diploma right for me? And that's not a question I can answer. I can tell you, will it give you everything and more that you need to have a successful future? Yes, 100%. No matter what your grade is that you end up getting, it will give you so many things. It'll be worth it. Is it right for you? If you are someone who is self-motivated, that you're driven, that you have your eyes on a further prize than just your entry ticket into university, but what are you going to do with that once you get in there, then yes, it's for you. Are you someone who is organised or would like to be or learn how to be organised? Because you're either already organised or you will learn how to be organised if you do IB. Are you someone who demonstrates initiative? Do you enjoy a challenge? Do you have average or above average academic ability? Do you enjoy working towards a significant goal for significant reasons for a significant future? Then yes, it's right for you. Thank you.